Washington, D.C., the corridors of power in the U.S. Capitol buzzed with renewed anticipation as President Donald Trump broke weeks of speculation with a pointed announcement. The president revealed that he will meet China's President Xi Jinping in just 4 weeks, signaling what could be a defining moment for global trade and, in particular, for the struggling American farming sector. The announcement, made via Trump's favored social media platform, Truth Social, came with his trademark directness. Setting the stage for the talks, Trump placed soybeans, an agricultural commodity with enormous political and economic weight in America's heartland, at the very center of the coming negotiations. US President Donald Trump said, "I will never let our farmers down," underscoring a pledge that has been central to his message to rural voters since his first presidential campaign. The remark was not just political rhetoric. It came at a time when many American farmers have been enduring months of financial uncertainty amid a trade standoff that has disrupted one of their largest export markets, China. Trump's post began with a sharp critique of Beijing's approach. He argued that American farmers are being hurt because China's holding off purchases for negotiating reasons only. By framing China's actions as a deliberate tactic to extract concessions at the bargaining table, the president painted a picture of an economic contest with tangible costs for U.S. rural communities. The president did not stop at criticism. In the same breath, he outlined how his administration intends to support those bearing the brunt of the prolonged trade tensions. Trump stressed that he would use revenue from tariffs imposed on Chinese goods to provide relief for American farmers. Reassuring his core supporters in agricultural states, he declared, "I will never let our farmers down." For farmers in states like Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, often referred to as America's soybean belt, these words carry significant weight. Over the past 2 years, they have experienced steep declines in exports as Chinese buyers turned their focus to suppliers in South America, primarily Brazil and Argentina. This shift has cost U.S. producers billions of dollars in lost revenue, creating ripple effects throughout the agricultural economy. The forthcoming meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping, expected to take place in 4 weeks, will mark a critical juncture in a trade dispute that has defined US-China relations for much of the past decade. The relationship between the two countries has long been marked by competition over technology, tariffs, and strategic influence, but few sectors have felt the impact as acutely as American agriculture. In his announcement, Trump framed the meeting as an opportunity to reverse the damage inflicted on US farmers. The president's focus on soybeans, rather than broader trade categories such as semiconductors or rare earth minerals, was seen by many analysts as a deliberate political move. Soybeans are not only an essential export commodity for the US, but also a key part of China's food supply chain, particularly for animal feed. By zeroing in on this crop, Trump signaled that he views agriculture not just as an economic issue, but as a bargaining chip in broader geopolitical negotiations. The timing of the meeting, just weeks ahead of the next planting season, adds further urgency for farmers who need clarity to plan their operations. China, for its part, has been sourcing most of its soybean imports from South America since the escalation of the US-China trade dispute. This pivot has offered Brazilian and Argentine farmers an unprecedented boost in market share, while leaving American producers struggling with surpluses and falling prices. According to trade analysts, the redirection of Chinese demand has cost US farmers billions of dollars in potential earnings, weakening their resilience in an already volatile sector. Beijing has been clear that its shift was not simply about market preferences, but a response to US tariffs imposed during the earlier phases of the trade war. By buying less from the US, China effectively reduced American leverage while strengthening ties with alternative suppliers. However, the geopolitical and economic dynamics are shifting again. With global food supply chains under pressure due to climate events, logistical disruptions, and growing demand, China is said to be reassessing the long-term security of its agricultural imports. This recalibration adds a layer of complexity to the upcoming negotiations. The US tariff revenues that Trump promised to redirect towards supporting farmers have been both a source of relief and contention. While the aid has helped many stay afloat during the prolonged dispute, critics argue that such subsidies are no substitute for stable trade relationships. Many agricultural economists have emphasized that long-term growth depends on reliable export markets rather than temporary financial support. For Trump, however, the political calculus is clear. agricultural states represent a crucial electoral base. By spotlighting soybeans and explicitly blaming China for farmers' hardships, he is reinforcing a narrative of defending American producers against foreign manipulation. The pledge, "I will never let our farmers down," is as much a political message as it is an economic promise. Farmer associations and commodity groups reacted to the announcement with cautious optimism. Many welcomed the prospect of renewed talks, but stressed that promises must translate into tangible market access. Agricultural lobbyists have repeatedly highlighted the importance of China as a trading partner. Before the trade war, China imported roughly a third of US soybean production, making it the single largest foreign buyer. The loss of this market has led to widespread challenges, including falling farm incomes, rising debt burdens, and in some cases, farm closures. Analysts also point out that while tariff relief provides short-term support, it does little to address the structural issues facing US agriculture, such as fluctuating commodity prices, climate-related risks, and rising input costs. For many farmers, a durable resolution to the US-China trade tensions would provide the stability needed to invest in new equipment, expand operations, and hire workers. The upcoming Trump-Xi meeting is not just a bilateral matter. It carries implications for global food security, trade routes, and even diplomatic alliances. Should the talks lead to an agreement restoring US soybean exports to pre-trade war levels, it could rebalance global supply chains and reduce pressure on South American producers. Conversely, failure to reach an agreement could entrench the current market dynamics, solidifying China's pivot to alternative suppliers. Global commodity markets reacted cautiously to the news of the planned meeting. Futures for soybeans experienced a modest uptick as traders speculated that a breakthrough could revive US exports. However, volatility remained high as skepticism about a swift resolution lingered among investors. Trade policy experts have noted that the focus on soybeans illustrates how geopolitical tensions often manifest in the most tangible sectors of the economy. Unlike technology exports or financial services, agricultural goods have direct, immediate impacts on millions of livelihoods across borders. The stakes for Trump are not purely economic. The meeting with Xi Jinping also represents a test of his administration's ability to balance tough rhetoric on trade with pragmatic deal-making. Trump has often touted his confrontational style as a negotiating advantage, but critics warn that missteps could further alienate a vital trade partner while prolonging the pain for US farmers. The president's decision to highlight soybeans, a relatively narrow slice of the overall trade relationship, may be an effort to show voters that he is prioritizing their immediate concerns. Yet it also risks reducing the scope of talks at a time when issues like intellectual property rights, export controls, and security-sensitive technologies remain unresolved. In rural communities across the Midwest, the announcement has sparked a mix of hope and anxiety. While many farmers appreciate the president's attention to their plight, they are also wary of the unpredictability that has defined US-China trade relations in recent years. For some, the promise of renewed Chinese demand could mean higher prices and a return to profitability. For others, the fear is that another breakdown in talks could leave them exposed to market swings and dependent on government assistance. Local farmer cooperatives have emphasized that a stable export relationship with China would not only benefit individual farmers, but also support the broader agricultural infrastructure, from transportation networks to processing plants, that underpins rural economies. As the countdown to the Trump-Xi meeting begins, expectations are high but tempered by recent history. Previous rounds of negotiations have produced temporary truces but often failed to resolve deeper structural disputes. The emphasis on soybeans this time reflects both the urgency of farmers' challenges and the political realities facing leaders in Washington and Beijing. In his Truth Social message, Trump's words were unambiguous: "I will never let our farmers down." Whether that promise can be fulfilled depends not only on the outcome of the talks, but also on the willingness of both sides to navigate a complex web of economic and political interests. For now, US farmers wait, hopeful that the coming month could bring relief, but mindful that the stakes could hardly be higher.